Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this live Kabbalah question and answer session with Senior Instructor Tony Kosinec. Welcome if you are attending for the first time. Welcome back if you've joined us before. We always have a combination of viewers, those who are already students of Kabbalah, and those who may know little or maybe nothing at all about Kabbalah. In any case, we welcome your questions. Just type them in the chat and we'll be asking them here. Also, we have simultaneous translation for Spanish speakers, so I'll make note of those questions when those are read. If you'd like to share your location, we love to hear from what location you're viewing from today, and just type those in the chat and I'll read those a little bit later on. Tony has been studying for over 20 years and has been teaching for nearly as long. So this is really a great opportunity to get all your questions, at least some of them answered. Everything you want to know about Kabbalah. Tony, once again, it's great to be together.
Yeah, it's great to be together again, and especially on this new platform. We're coming to you using a completely new software and so on. So we're all kind of holding on to the bow of the ship and hoping that everything goes the way it should, and it will. Yeah, like Mary said, people who are watching this are coming here because they've already started studying, or because there's a curiosity in their heart about this. And it's a very special part of the heart that becomes interested and attracted to Kabbalah. It may be just for a moment, a few weeks, a month, a year, in order to get your bearings on life in this world, or it may be a way of ongoing perception for a person. That's to say the same thing as ongoing study, a way of looking, perceiving, and being engaged with the book of life that's really presented to us in our experience. The most basic idea, truth behind Kabbalah is about perception of reality and the way in which it's fundamentally structured. That is, that everything that we see here is the result of something that's already happened on a higher, or you could say deeper level. That it's dependent on things, our perception is dependent on the quality of our inner life, but on a particular aspect of inner life. And those changes, developments, corrections that happen in the heart are what changes our ability to sense and perceive correctly what's occurring. Everything that happens on this level occurs first on the root level, that is, on that inner or higher level. And what we live in, our reality, is a world of outcomes. And the whole point of our journey here in this world for the time being is to learn to rise to that level of roots as opposed to the level of branches. Because once a person rises to that place or changes their inner nature so that it begins to match the quality of the causal level of reality, we actually rise to that level and we can see how that works in this world. We can be part of that. We can function pretty much like a law of nature in regards to the world that we see. So just think about that for a moment and how that would change our experience, our sense of beauty, how it would lessen both our suffering and the suffering of other people. If we really could bring to it a proper intention like the spiritual level, instead of always being at odds of changing forces that we don't sense at all. Kabbalah is a means of learning to sense these forces by getting to know them within ourselves, and also being informed about what their real quality is, so that we can begin to match it. Now, I know that sounds pretty abstract, or maybe it sounds like something you've heard before, but the thing about Kabbalah is that it is a methodology, concrete, step-by-step methodology that enables us to actually change our nature, so that we move from this root level, from the branch level to the root level, and begin to live from there, and for the sake of the whole of reality, in the same way that the forces of nature do. So that may have opened something, or it may have just confused you, but confusion is good. Confusion is the basis of questions. So Mary, let's get to the first question.
Okay, sure, Tony. The first question comes from Sylvie, watching on YouTube. She's asking, it says, "Hi, Tony. Last week's teacher said something about tikkun. Can you tell me more about this?"
Something? He said something about tikkun. Well, what is tikkun? Tikkun is correction. But correction means the proper aim of an inner intention in relation to others and to the world. What changes is why we are doing what we're doing, why we want what we want. This is, you can call it a correction, it's an interesting word, but it's more an alignment with the basic law of nature. What does nature do? What is nature's intention? I'm using intention because intention is a way of understanding a force. What is motivating something that affects everything, that has great influence on everything? And this intention of nature is to care for every part of it without a thought of the self, because there is no self. There is, for nature, there is an annulment completely into the doing of and satisfying of everything that is truly needed for the fulfillment of that plant, that animal, that human heart, that society, the entire picture, that molecule, that subatomic particle, all of it is activated, motivated, and dances in response to that singular intention of nature. Now, tikkun would mean that we also have an aspect in us that is like that law, or can be like that law. And it's that law that, of course, exists on the root level of reality. The more our heart changes in that direction, begins to annul in favor of doing good or intending fulfillment for others, not just for ourselves, the more that intention becomes corrected. It goes through its tikkun and begins to align and become exactly the same thing as that primary law of nature. That's the big picture of what tikkun is.
Also on YouTube, John Colvert is asking, thanks for joining, John. "Hey, Tony, we all have a point in the heart. When that point in the heart is awakened, how through it do we identify with the soul?"
Well, the point in the heart is the only part of us that is actually connected to that upper force, even before our conscious development. It has within it the seed of a soul. And it's that desire that brings a person to want to know the the purpose and meaning of their life and how to truly fulfill it. It's the part that understands that the world is not as we see it. I mean, it's real, but it doesn't exist for the reason that we imagine. It doesn't yeah. It and it doesn't develop or isn't influenced and evolved by the things that we imagine. In other words, it doesn't happen through political change as a primary force. Uh, it happens by the development of the soul. The soul is that point in the heart that is a desire, that the whole heart should be nothing but that desire. That's the seed of the soul. The degree to which we do things to maintain a conscious awareness of that, to find a path or an environment that allows us to evolve it, grow it, expand it, and to the degree that we make tikkun, corrections on for whom are we doing this. This is the expansion of the soul until that single desire becomes really the only or governing desire of the entire heart. That is what a soul is. But we have, let's say, 0.2% of the totality of a soul when we're born. It's either awakened or it's not awakened. And when it becomes awakened, it draws a person to develop, to grow a soul. Yeah. Mary?
Okay, thanks, Tony. The next question is from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Luisa Saavedra Tomeo. How do we know what the proper way is, as explained by Professor Tony?
Well, it's the texts of the sages of Kabbalah, the books, the methodology taught by our Rav Lightman, which has been handed down for thousands of years and is still intact, and what his students, are sharing with you. This is how you know what's right. The texts themselves present you with targets that your heart can understand, kind of inner goals. And the instructors, say in KabU, who studied in this lineage, help guide you towards understanding those things and how to use them. And ultimately, though, it's your point in the heart, your heart itself, that part in you that confirms reality, that says to you, this is love, this is truth, this is a path, this is real. It's that part that nobody else can tell you about that ultimately confirms whether you're doing the right thing or not. There is no dogma here. There is only pointing to a doable goal that the heart can attain, and your efforts in that direction, and the response that you get from the upper force, which is only felt in the heart, and your heart tells you. But you do have to learn not to be tricked by the ego part, which says, "I'm your heart." That's not your heart. I'm your heart. Listen to me. It's all part of the method. It's beautiful and it's exciting and it's an amazing adventure, and it's the purpose of our life to work this out.
Thank you, Tony. The next question is from Crystal James. Tony, what is the difference between soul, spirit, and point in the heart?
Well, using English, it's difficult to make any discernments of the difference between these things. In Hebrew, spirit has the Hebrew word for spirit has a particular meaning. But let's put it this way. In general, every word that we use is us naming our reality for us, how we perceive reality. And every new name that is a description of our experience, inner experience, is a different level of attainment of exactly the same thing. We are attaining the quality of the Creator, which is pure bestowal, like that law of nature. And the name that we give it as we grow becomes, is actually a greater and greater level of wholeness in that very same direction of that very same quality. So the point in the heart can be an unconscious spark of soul or attainment of the Creator. It's what remains in us from the upper world, from even before our creation and descent into this world. It's mostly unconscious, becomes conscious. And then there is a spirit of growth in which we begin to get engaged with it. Well, that's way more than just the point. That's a whole other level where we are striving, intending to fill our world with that point of the upper light. That is a much greater, more inclusive, holistic sense. It's not the whole. It's actually nowhere near it. It's only the beginning of the path. Soul indicates a high degree of equivalence of form of one's intention to the intention of the Creator or to the law of nature. So each one of these names, including the names of God and so on that we hear about or we read about in both in scripture and in the Kabbalistic texts, they only indicate strata, degrees of development of the soul until it is in complete connection with that upper force, that the intention of that human heart is identical. It is the same thing as the intention, the quality of the Creator. Mary.
Tony, Louisa has a follow-up question about the right way. So does that mean that the right way is how each of us perceives it through study and personal work?
Ultimately, that's the test. The right way exists as an objective truth. There is a whole path of development laid out from the creation, and there are these what we call reshimot, or records, you can say, like memories, that sort of spiritual DNA that open to us like a path of breadcrumbs that guide us, that help us in the right way. There is only the right way, but the right way is dependent on whether we perceive it that way or not. This is a matter of revelation and concealment. The entire order of creation is already set. Everything is actually totally and only good, and it's only to our benefit. And there is only one path. What makes there seem like there's more than one path and more than one way is the degree of revelation in the human heart. How open is the heart? How much does it want to act not for itself and not for differentiating myself from the whole or from the rest of reality? How much one wants to integrate into that in a complete way. And we need help. We need others to help us with that. We need to receive it as a received wisdom, and we need the support of others in order to do it. But there is only a right way, and it depends on the development of the heart. So the more that we want to be identified with and serving the whole in a selfless way, the more we see the singular path. The more concerned we are with our own well-being and our own ideas and our own judgment on things, the more we see multiple paths in reality, when really there's only one good but narrow path that leads to the good. Mary?
Hey, Tony, Gina Ortiz, also Spanish-speaking viewer, has two questions, one about the soul, one about correction. First, I'll read the one about the soul. Hi, when we are in the 10, a collective soul is built among its members. Is that soul also my individual soul?
Well, you're framing the question in a way where it is either an individual soul or the soul is a whole that's made up of a single creature. The 10 is a representative to us of how it's possible to enter the fact that we are all one creature, that all of creation is a single creature. So does that mean that it is it a question of being either individual or a collective? It's not really. Both of these things exist one over the other, and the individual, what we think of as the individual, is basically the sense organ to feel the whole. But it is of the whole. It belongs to the whole. And also, the development in spirituality is not intended to take away that point and for the pleasure and the fulfillment of perception and advancement and the excitement of all of that, of discovery and all that, that is never taken away from us as we evolve. It's a miraculous thing. It is both the whole and it is the perceiving heart, which we call me, like I call it me. But the question comes down to, and eventually comes down to, what does this mean? And this brings the question, well, what is that single law of nature? How is it expressed to the human heart? It's expressed as love your friend as yourself. Now, if you think deeply on that and take it not as, being a nice person with good manners, and take it absolutely literally, love your friend as yourself, see the 10 as yourself. Okay, so it is both yourself and you seeing it that way. It's not exactly a paradox. It's I don't know. It's a beautiful construction. It's like the inner and outer part of a flower. Think on it.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Gina's other question is the correction the same for everyone, or how does this really work?
The nature of the correction in broad strokes is the same for everyone because there is only one creature. But the aesthetic of it, how different it is, the color, when it comes, and all that, you will see amongst your friends as you're working, it will appear to be totally different for everyone. And there is a uniqueness to every part of the whole. It views the reality and its development from a different viewing point. But that doesn't, so it's different, but imagine that we're just like a cluster of cells in a particular organ. The organ has a single function. Everything that every cell does, though it's differentiated as a cell, it's all going into the same direction for the same purpose. So it's different and it's the same, and there's no difference between the two.
Okay, Tony, just want to take a minute to let viewers know that there is a live Q&A session on Zoom immediately following this session at 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So after this Kabbalah Explained Simply session each week, we have a 1-hour live Q&A session on Zoom at KabU where you can ask any questions you want Kabbalah's answer to and get them answered live. You can also ask follow-up questions. This is not a public broadcast. It's a private Zoom session. Tony will be there right after this to answer your questions. So if you'd like to join, just go to KabUconnect.com/live. You'll see the links in the chat. Click on Zoom. If you're not a KabU member, after clicking on Zoom, you just sign up for a free trial. Then click on Zoom again, and we'll see you there. Okay, so let's go to the next question from a Facebook viewer. Paul Marlin is asking, aren't we truly just floating in love and bestowal? In other words, creator, and being puppeted by the creator, the forces of nature, and not in control of truly anything?
There's a single point that all of this structure, which is under the sole control of the creator, as you say, floating in bestowal, is happening in order to develop a particular thing in us. And yes, everything, including our own desires, absolutely everything, arises from the creator, and is the creator. But you have to notice that we hold ourselves apart from it. The idea that we are floating says that we're not a part of it. So how do we enter that quality of his ocean of love and be an active part of it and not just the subject of it? How do we enter the whole of the picture, both the creature and the creator? How do we have a relationship, an active relationship with this force? Because the floating part of it is really the mode of the initial creation. The initial creation was just the will to receive. That's reception. All we want is to receive the love and bestowal, for myself, to fulfill one's own idea of pleasure and satisfaction. But eventually, this no longer is satisfactory in life. So this structure provides a place that we can get involved in an active, conscious way. And it waits for that time, that moment, or that desire is more apt because there's really no time involved in this. It waits until there is a desire to be able to do what this upper force does, rather than just be in reception. And when we notice that such a desire exists in us, and we take whatever actions we imagine will produce something, then the relationship starts to get built in a conscious way. The whole point is to move out of the seed level into an active effort. And it's not that the efforts that we do produce the outcome. It produces a response, a helpful response from above that takes away more and more of the concealment of what we are and where we are and what our level of responsibility actually is. How engaged we really can be directly in a direct relationship with this force called the Creator. So there is an area of free will, which is how we respond to a particular type of impulse that comes from this ocean of love. That is to seek it out and to put efforts into wanting to change. Can I change myself on my own? No, I can't. But that also is the question, is the creator or the upper force real to me or not? Because if it's real to me, then I'm going to ask of it. I'll be in a real relationship with it. I'll say, help me, I want this. I don't want reception. I want your quality. I can't do it. You do it, or you help me do it. So what's happening when that occurs? That force is no longer hidden from us as a reality in our heart. This is the type of response that is our area of freedom. Anything that we do in that direction, where we request or seek out an environment in which the point in the heart can grow, this gets a response from above, because it is the one thing that the upper force really wants to give us. It wants to develop us to a point where we are like that force, like that ocean of love. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And Paul had a follow-up question, and you just answered it by becoming like it. So thank you for your questions, Paul. Andy Hodson has a question about relationship with the Creator. If my future is predetermined, who determined it? And was I involved in the decision as I'm part of the Creator? How is life predetermined before I was born if there is no time, no separation?
You didn't determine it. And one can say, I understand why you're saying this. One can say part of the Creator, but that doesn't mean anything really. The whole point is to realize that, to attain that, because the way in which the question is constructed, it's really philosophical. It's in Kabbalah, everything is about. It's only what you see and what you feel. That's the only thing you can describe. That you can name that, but we don't deal with philosophical abstractions. Okay, so how is it determined? There is a shape. There is an order of forces that descend from a single intention and become all of the different forces in the world, many worlds, the way that force works on that level called a world. And the entire path was at the very beginning, prior to the act of creation. And this point at the beginning is called the thought of creation. That is, what is the intention behind everything that we see, including everything that we feel, all our responses, every action that we take, every bit of the world or of the cosmos, from its material all the way up to its spiritual nature. Excuse me one sec. Now that intention that created the whole path for you is this: to create a creature and to fill the creature with complete fulfillment. That's it. That law begets every single action on every level of your perception that is necessary to bring you to that point. That is the predetermination in life, because it's the only thing that can ever happen, either in a short term, some event that happens to us. It's only happening because of that. We may not be able to perceive its connection to it, but that's what it is. Things on the large scale, things that happen in the world, only happening in order to create a creature. What is the creature? It's the entire cosmos. It's all of humanity together as one. It's every level of nature, every wildfire, every disaster, every every passing comet, everything. Why is that happening? Because of that single intention. So that determination was the reason that everything was created, and it follows an order that hangs down from cause and consequence to every single action, every single perception. It's only this desire to bestow to what was created. Did you have a hand in it? No. But you are going to benefit from it, and you are going to become like it and learn to recognize it. But there isn't anything but that. It's just that we don't see it. It's more that things are hidden from us than that it's turning out to be a particular way as opposed to another way. There isn't another way. It's just your growing perception of what you actually are, where we actually are, and what it means to be fulfilled. What is the ultimate pleasure that our will to receive, which was the only thing that was ever created? What is that is going to give it that ultimate fulfillment? It's that thought of creation manifested in your experience.
Tony, Spanish-speaking viewer Susana Varela is asking, what are good deeds according to Kabbalah?
The change of a desire from the form of I want this in order to fulfill myself to I want to do this in order to fulfill the Creator through my relationship with others.
Also, next question is from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Alberto Calvario. How does fear of God allow me to reach the Creator?
Fear of God means to fear losing the connection with the Creator and to fear losing the value of the stole as the highest value as it now sits in my heart. Fear of the loss of the relationship, loss of the awareness. It's not fear that the Creator will harm. He never harms. Every point in this path is for the ultimate fulfillment of good. So it helps to try to hold on to that perception, especially when you don't feel it in your reason. If the most important thing is, I would never let me forget you, never let me let go. And even if I can't see within my reason, I still will not let go. That keeps your hand on the rungs of the ladder. It's above our reason, and that above reason only comes because the relationship with the Creator in our heart somewhere is real to us, and we don't want to lose it. Fear of losing it.
Okay, next, Samier, also Spanish-speaking, is asking, according to Kabbalah, do I need salvation? And how can I be saved?
Well, everything we've been describing is what you might call salvation. It's not a term that Kabbalah uses, but it's the fulfillment of the purpose of your life. And it aligns one all with the Creator. So in a sense, it's like being salvated, you go, a ship sinks with its treasure, it's down at the bottom of some deep part of the ocean. They send some kind of a dredger or something to it. They drop something down and they pull up the treasure into the ship, a new ship. Well, that's what happens with us. We first fell from a complete wholeness and were shattered and fell completely into this world, which is a perception of separation and aloneness and great space between everything. So great that it's like it takes the entire universe to make us feel that we're hiding enough from the totality. We're shattered, we're broken, like a treasure that fell from an old galleon to the bottom of the sea. And the whole process of our development is the raising of those broken parts cohering them like being picked up in a net, all pulled together as it comes to the surface, finally being in complete adhesion with the Creator. That, I mean, that is the definition of salvation. And that's what the whole process of the method of Kabbalah is about. So it's everything.
Tony, before we go to the next question, I'd like to share some locations where viewers are tuning in from today. Great. Yeah, we have the UK, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Argentina, España, Mexico, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Sydney, Australia, Netherlands, Montana, South Mississippi, South Africa, Maine, Colombia, Peru, France, Ireland, Ghana, Spain, someone else from the UK, San Bernardino, California, Philippines, El Salvador, someone else from Mexico, Michigan, Tennessee, Ontario, Los Angeles, Alabama, and Barcelona, Spain. And if anyone still cares to share your location, just type those in the chat, and I'll read the rest of the list a little bit later on before we end the broadcast. The next question, earlier, Tony, you were talking about tikkun. So Francisco Javier Villegas Garcia, Spanish speaking, would like to know, what would be my personal tikkun? Thank you very much.
Adhesion with the Creator. To change all the purpose of all of your desires, not the desires themselves, but why you want them fulfilled, to be in order to serve, to give to the Creator through giving to people. There is no individual tikkun, because we're not really individuals. We all end in the same in the king's palace, all together with the same treasures and the same changes occurring in the heart that enable us to perceive and enter it. It's not like a career in the material world in which everybody has a slightly different job to do in order, to make aspects of society function and so on. Here, in the spiritual, it starts off as a whole in the first place, and that's where it ends. So the correction from wholeness down into separation, traveling along the lines of correction, and then rising up again to conscious wholeness. Well, if it begins in wholeness and ends in wholeness, where is the individual correction? It's only in this part where we perceive difference and shattering and separation. It's not really the correction. The correction is on the ascending line back to wholeness, and that means back to a complete interconnection and identification with all of life.
Next question, Tony, is from Susan Hickey, watching on YouTube. How do we know if we are pleasing the Creator? Does something inside of us change?
If you don't know this in a kind of a direct cognitive way, because the Creator is always higher than our reason. But we need to understand that our reason is not the measurement of our success in any way. It's intention that tells us where we are. And it's the thing that we try to discern as best we can. Now, if you want to bestow to the Creator, whether you don't understand what that term means yet at all, or maybe you do it in some way, little way, whether whether you know what it means or whether you know whether you're succeeding or not is completely irrelevant. Those are the details, the lower aspects, the outcome of the root level, which is the intentional level. What is intended is what happens, not what we think, but what the heart aims at. So even if you're incapable of doing it, because the intention is activated towards it, you're already pleasing the Creator. It's already successful because in the end, the only one that acts in all of reality is the Creator. The Creator takes this desire of his child and turns it into reality. You know, we may want something from our parents, but we're unable to buy it or build it, but the parents provide it. This is exactly the way that it works in nature. If your heart is turned towards wanting this, you're already pleasing the Creator, and you can't measure it. And it's not worth spending your time doing that. It's just worth trying to hold on to direct your intention towards others and towards the Creator, and understanding that you're going to sometimes feel it and not feel it, and the not feeling it is really important, because when you accept that your intention is already a connection, even though there's nothing in your mind and your normal cognitive senses that tell you that this is so, you are working on a completely different level called faith. And faith is a real thing. Faith sits on top of your reason. It requires all the doubt that you have. And it's that place that we eventually learn to live in. And then you could say it's like knowing, but it isn't the same kind of knowing as the way the mind knows. Mary?
Thank you, Tony. Dan Barnes is asking, at what point in a person's development should they attempt Lishma? How do you know if you're ready to attempt it?
You're never ready to attempt it. You can't attempt it. You have to ask for it. And in the end, Lishma means that it's actually the Creator doing the act. So attempting is it's not a clear, it doesn't create a clear picture for me. We do not have the ability to do that action ever. It requires a dependence on and a annulment to the quality of the Creator, mostly through what we think of as prayer or requesting. So you can attempt, I'm not talking about you or any of your shortcomings at all. I can attempt that, but I don't even know what gear to move. I don't know what part in me. The only thing that I do know is that I will be presented with a situation in which I'm required to give or stop thinking or caring so much about myself that I can't do this act that is very clearly required at this moment. And it gets more and more subtle because we're always being required to give. When I'm confronted with that, and then I know that I have a need for it. I have a need to be able to even ask to do something not for myself, which is impossible. But the request already connects, I think I'm repeating an answer here. It already connects you to Lishma because you are asking for a quality outside of yourself. You can never just say, I'm tying the horses of Lishma to my wagon, and now I'm, giddy up, we're going. No, we don't have those horses. It's strictly on the level of intention, and there's nothing that we can execute except the need and the emptiness and the despair that we can't do it. Why despair? Because despair is a real need, not a need that a philosophical need, but a gut level need. So I think basically you're always attempting Lishma. If you're, sometimes you forget about it, I'd rather do something else. But basically, if you're on the path, if you're learning in Kabbalah, you are always aiming yourself towards that. But it's like, it takes a lot of a perception, many orbits around this whole process of our development until you begin to see and feel in you what's important and what's the real mechanism inside of a person that makes any difference in terms of the connection with the Creator. It's not as it's described, but your heart will know what it is when you're confronted with it.
Tony, the next question comes from a Spanish-speaking viewer on Facebook, Milzia Noelia Boria Barrios. Is achieving fulfillment the same as being connected to the Creator?
Yes, it's the ultimate fulfillment. Like, we experience being connected to the Creator in broken forms. That is the only thing that we actually can experience. It's the only pleasure that exists. But, we experience it as beautiful clothes or some kind of success or wonderful food or a particular relationship, right? We experience it in its separated forms. But the ultimate pleasure, and the only pleasure that actually exists disguised as all of those things, is the connection to the Creator. And that's why there's nothing to fear with this. It's really ultimately what we want. We just don't recognize its actual nature. And it doesn't burn us away. It's not like because everything is the Creator, there isn't the experience of the Creator. In other words, the pleasure of life. He created it in an eternal way. This relationship is eternal. It's just not fulfilled in the way that it wants to fulfill us. But that is the only thing that we really want behind every pleasure that we imagine we want.
Next up is Max Sestero's question. Does a creator ever want to create more separation, or are we always moving towards a closer adhesion?
There are different states. There are evolutionary states where things advance and then there are ones where they sort of retrograde. They move back. But that's all part of a forward movement. It's a spiral. Spiritual development is not a straight line. It's an ascending spiral. And that means that you're going to have a high arc, you're going to have a midpoint crossover, and you're going to have a lower point and a higher point and a much lower point. So it is part of the natural system that there is the sensation of disconnection. The reality is quite different. We're not talking about the Creator, and you framed the question in terms of like, does the Creator want this or want that? We don't know any of that. The only thing that we know is what's happening inside of the attaining creature. That we know. We do experience more separation at times, and the purpose of that more separation is to create a greater leap to a higher connection. And that happens everywhere in nature. So it's part and parcel of the system. It's not some kind of choice of the Creator. It is the system of fulfillment that he, is created by that single intention.
Tony, the next question is from a Spanish-speaking viewer, Isabel Machiavello. According to Kabbalah wisdom, what is the meaning of war? I know that everything is meant to correct us, but I live in Israel and feel that there is no way out of this.
Well, war is either going to happen by taking on the inner war, to not let the will to receive be the dominant quality within our heart. Now, either of these things, and what does that mean? In human relations, it's going to mean that the cumulative result of this will be a greater and greater connection between people and nations. But it has to start as inner work inside the supposed individual. The whole world actually is your heart. It actually is. It's just all disowned parts of your heart. And the point of war is that it happens externally if it doesn't happen internally. And the good side of it, of even an external war, is that it creates a vessel, a need for that inner war, the inner correction inside. But the war is never the correction. It's only the creation of a need for correction and understanding what is most important in life. Israel has a particular responsibility because Israel received this. It is the custodian of this method of unifying humanity, not for material reasons, but for reasons of the heart, reasons of bestowal, of aligning with the quality of nature itself. If Israel's not doing that, if it's just concerned with, political and militarily dealing with these things, then that's how it's going to have to happen. But if the people of Israel learn this and unite, then the necessity for external wars will disappear, because it will already have been resolved internally. I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Tony, Boo sent in the next question. Glad to have you back again, Boo. Thank you for your question. I have read Nietzsche, but Kabbalah said I shouldn't read non-Kabbalah books unless necessary to disseminate Kabbalah. But Yehuda Ashlag read Nietzsche. Should I stop studying non-Kabbalah books?
No, I mean, Nietzsche's, interesting, and much of what he wrote is based in the tradition. But while you're studying, if you're mixing sources, you're not going to get anywhere. It's as simple as that. There is a wisdom that incorporates all wisdoms and all sciences, and that is the wisdom of the law of nature itself, and that's what Kabbalah is. If you want to take something from a lower level and use that along with the root of all wisdoms, you're going to get confused. You're the one who's going to lose out. Just don't put it on the same level. Read Nietzsche if you want to read Nietzsche, but don't confuse the two. It is not Kabbalah, and it will not take you to the same place. And it's something that has got to do with imagination, really, and abstractions, and is not based in spiritual reality. It's interesting, somewhat accurate in some situations, but you can't do both of these at the same time. If you're going to be on the spiritual path, the texts that you're going to study from should be the texts of the Kabbalists, and anything else, read for your edification, but not as a means of studying. Oh, before we go, I want to tell you about an event that is coming up in September 5th to the 7th. And that's a Friday to a Sunday. It's this 3-day leap. That is a Kabbalah retreat in a beautiful place in the Catskill Mountains, Iroquois Springs, New York. And it's kind of like a camp, it's kind of like a summer camp. It's really a beautiful setting. And this is a place where for those 3 days, you learn and live the principles of Kabbalah in a very practical way. You see how this actually can work between people. And it will advance your learning if you're already learning, or explain in a very practical, straightforward way really what Kabbalah is, what it's about, and it'll give you a foothold into the whole thing. It's a very practical experience where you'll be surrounded by the most friendly and supportive people that you've ever met. You'll be able to, I don't know about relax, but you'll rejuvenate in this setting, and it'll deepen your spiritual experience and understanding of the spiritual path. So if you can make it, go for it. It will also be available online if you can't do that. And you can get your, I don't know what to call it, tickets. You can sign up for it at retreat.kabbalahconnect.com. And I hope to see you there, Mary.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, a very exciting event. I also have a few more announcements before I make those. A few other locations that you sent in to us. Thank you for those. Other viewers are tuned in from Quebec, Nigeria, Chicago, Paraguay, Tecate, Mexico, North Carolina, Montreal, Canada, Santa Monica, California, Ethiopia, and another viewer from Mexico. Also, if you want to join KabU, if you're not already a KabU member, then we invite you to join. You can see the link in the chats, and you'll gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners to advanced. You join the world's largest online Kabbalah community, the ability to ask instructors questions in a student forum anytime you have a question, and access to a KabU exclusive weekly webinar. Also, you get access to the next Kabbalah Revealed course with Tony that begins on July 27th. If you want to support KabU, you can do that in a couple of ways. If you appreciate our content, one, you can become a KabU member. And two, you can make a donation. Your donation is very much appreciated. We put it to good use in producing our courses, broadcasting live events, and maintaining all of our online services. And don't forget, if you want to join the live Q&A session on Zoom, you can still do that. You can just click on the link in the chat. And thank you so much for the beautiful questions today. Always great to be with you, Tony.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I really enjoy it. And thank you, friends, for the really wonderful and sincere questions. Bye-bye.